Hello folks, Jason Chrisman, JC's Bees, your Central Ohio beekeeper. Sitting out here in the rain. Can you tell Memorial Day's coming? A rain's a good clue of that. At least here in Central Ohio, it always rains on Memorial Day weekend. Never fails. You could almost set your watch to it, or your calendar, anyway. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about Pagmr Foundation. If you're not familiar with Pagmr Foundation, you should really educate yourself on it, because it's simply amazing the research that they've put into their product. And I'm going to link a video that Jeff Johnson, the co-founder, put together on their product. I highly recommend that you watch this video, and I'm going to link it right up here. So if you get a second, check it out. So through this research that Pagmr has put into their foundation, they've came up with a foundation that has a 36% thinner cell wall. Now with that thinner cell wall, they're able to get 552 more cells per sheet. Now ask yourself, what could you do with 552 more cells per sheet? Well, you could have roughly 552 more bees born per frame. You could have 552 more food stores per frame. So that's pretty beneficial, right? If I recall this correctly, Jeff says that's like adding an extra frame into a 10 frame box. So basically by adding 552 more cells per frame, you're basically adding an 11th frame to your 10 frame box, but you're doing it with 10 frames. So it's pretty amazing. Now you might be asking yourself, how did they figure out they could go with a 36% thinner cell wall? Well, that's through their research. They took samples from, I believe it was 80 some top bar hives all across the United States. And these top bar hives, these are combs that the bees have constructed themselves naturally. There was no guidance of foundation. They took these samples and they started measuring cells. And with that, they developed their product, Pagmr Foundation. So take a minute, watch their video up here. It's pretty educational, and it says a lot about their product. So what I did yesterday was I took their product, which I got back in, I think it was January, and of course it's been too cold to do anything with foundation. So yesterday I assembled some frames, and that was kind of fun. I got 15 sheets of foundation, so I thought, well, let's see how long it takes me to put together 10 frames. And I did it in just under 8 minutes. Well, I got the frames built, and then it was time to snap in the foundation. And I tell you, that's when I noticed that the foundation itself is actually thinner than the competition. It's a lot more flexible. That's usually used with a grooved top and bottom bar frame. And what you do is you stick the foundation into one of the grooves, and then you have to bend it to get it to go into the other one. And that's when I noticed, wow, this is a lot more flexible. And I could also notice right out of the package, the wax coating was top notch. First of all, as soon as you open the package, this overwhelming smell of beeswax just smacks you in the face. And then you open it up and you see how heavily coated it is, and you're like, this is going to be good. The bees are just going to go nuts, especially with a flow like we have right now. So it's a good time to get that foundation drawn out. So I threw some of those frames with that foundation on some colonies, and next week I hope to share the results of that with you. So stay tuned for that. If you're not a subscriber, this would be a good time to subscribe and click on the little bell so that you get notified when that video comes out next week. Okay, so I mentioned the flow. the nectar flow. Let's talk a little bit about the black locust. So I got some bad news. So let me tell you, at least Central Ohioans, and maybe more. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more. The locust bloom this year, it was a bust. We went to a town about 20 miles north of us the other day, and I noticed their locust was in bloom. I'm like, what in the world? How come ours isn't in bloom? And then a couple days later, I was mowing here at the house, and I found two little saplings, maybe 7-8 foot tall. They're not 8 foot, maybe 7 foot tall, with a few blooms on it. And I went and rechecked the mature ones around here. Nothing. So I think the only thing that saved these saplings and made it so that they could bloom is just their location. And let me show you real quick. You walk up here beside my driveway, you're going to notice, let me adjust the camera here, these pine trees that line the side of my property. Tucked up underneath of these pine trees is a few locusts. And I take it back, it might be 8 foot, it might be pushing 10 foot. But if we look up there, there is a few blooms. It did rain last night. So that kind of hurt them, it looks like. Here's a few blooms. But you can see some of them are already closing up and done because of the rain. Here's some more. Closed up, done. A few more over here on this part of the tree. A few more here. But that's it, folks. That's depressing. That's super depressing. I've been super excited about it, and evidently the last cold snap put a damper to them. So all I can do is pick up and move on, right? I wouldn't be surprised if your locust is going to be the same way. Maybe you'll get lucky. You'll be in one of these places that wasn't affected by the last cold snap, but it's not my situation. So, if I guess from here on out, I need to start paying attention to the last cold snap and maybe marking that date down and seeing what my furthest point into the year is that I'm going to get a good bloom. Evidently, sometime in May, getting a cold snap, not good. Not good at all. But I do got some good news. Check this out. Well, folks, I want to share something with you that I've been waiting a long time to happen, and it isn't Ladybug, although she does look cute and comfortable. 12 years ago, I planted some tulip poplars from seed, and yesterday I brought over my smoker and all of my equipment to do some inspecting. And when I got over here, I looked down and I noticed this here. That's a petal. That's a petal from a tulip bloom. So what I'm standing under here is a tulip poplar. So I looked up and holy crap, this is the year. It's finally gonna bloom. And look at it. You got some bees up here flying around. It's gorgeous. It's taken 12 years, folks, for this to bloom. Now granted, like I said, I did raise it from seed, but look at all them blooms. They're all over the tree. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now let me go over here where I can reach one of them and pull it down so you can get a close look at it. Look at them. Isn't that gorgeous? So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Now, here in this same little bee yard, I've got a few more that I planted from seed. Here's one. There's one. Right there's one. But they're nowhere near the size of this one. Now I have another one back by my sawmill that's just the same age as this one. So I walked back there yesterday to check it, And sure enough, it's in bloom too, but it only has about half the blooms on it that this one does. But I'm just over the top excited about it, folks. Waited and waited. I know for the last probably 5 or 6 years, as we go into spring from winter, me and the wife start talking. Could this be the year? Is your tulip poplars going to bloom? This year, we actually didn't even discuss it. And look what happened. So maybe it doesn't take 12 years. Maybe you just shouldn't discuss it because that jinxes it and then it'll bloom. I don't know. But I kind of believe that it takes about 12 years. I've had some people tell me it took 15 years and I didn't really like that answer, so I'm glad they were wrong. But anyway, folks, very, very excited about this. And other news, my bee inspector, my county bee inspector was here this week. I did not get a sit-down video with him. It was rather late in the day when he came. I was trying to move it on along because he was kind of impeding on my dinner. And beekeepers, we get hungry, right? Out here all day in the sun working, we're ready for our dinner. So when he came along, it was kind of hurry up, and he was on his way. But I did pass my inspection. I got my clean certificate with flying colors. Absolutely 0 diseases or problems with my colonies. So I'm glad to report that. The one thing that did discourage me though is the county bee inspector is using methods to check for mites that really there is no reason for. There is no boundaries or guidelines to go by. What he did was he went around and pulled frames of drones, capped drones, and then he used a dental pick and removed some of the capped drones to look for mites. And that's a fine way to look for mites, but there is no guidelines. There is nothing that says if you find 8 mites and 4 cells, then you need to treat. There's no guidelines. So I don't understand how the state is able to say that's an approved mite check method. It's not. You either have to wash them in alcohol. Some people use powdered sugar, which doesn't get nearly the results the alcohol does. So I don't know. I'm really conflicted on these state inspections. The state's going to do methods that aren't approved, but yet they want us to do everything that they want us to do. Jump through all their hoops, but we can do things how we want. That don't make sense to me. Super nice guy though. Have no problems with the inspector. I was glad he showed up. It's been since 2017 since I had an inspector here. And that's because the last one, he just didn't like doing his job. He said he didn't get paid enough, which, you know, I understand that. But at the same time, if it's your job and you don't get paid enough, quit. Let somebody else do it. So that about wraps it up for this week. Make sure you tune in next week and we'll be talking about that Pagmr Foundation a lot more in depth. I'm anxious to see how the bees start drawing it out, and that'll be pretty neat to check into. So make sure you tune in next week for that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, we'll see you next week, folks. Ladybug, what are you doing? You're hard on my flowers, honey. I know you want some grass. I don't know why you want grass, but you want it. Hey, you're sitting all over the sweet clover, honey. Look here. This sweet clover, hon. That's sweet clover. Look at all these sweet clover plants you're laying on. Look at your big rump. Ladybug.